What is up, LobotomizeGang is the guy. You know, the guy who does not take the Lord's name in vain. Because if God knew of my existence, he would eradicate the earth to make sure that I'm dead. Right off the bat, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is an extremely misleading title. As of this video, I've put about roughly 15 hours into the game, and I haven't come once. Talk about false marketing. Kingdom Come my ass. But aside from that, how is the game? Is it any good? Well, I absolutely love this game. But I also despise it with every fiber of my being. I hate it, but I love it. It's complicated to say the least, which is why I'd like to introduce you to the list. Look at this. Reasons why you should and shouldn't play this game. Look at this, it's custom made. I made it for this video, okay? Also, disclaimer, there is a lot of trauma surrounding this game, which I will discuss later on in the video. But I just want to say that I know that this is a fantasy, okay? It's a game, and they can do whatever they want with it. However, I do have a problem with the devs saying that they want to make this game as historically accurate as possible, but then they went and turned a real historical figure into a gay character. What the hell, man? This is like the Ubisoft situation with Yasuke again. We'll go deeper into that later. With that being said, I am apolitical. So later on when I talk about the trauma and the characters, just keep in mind that I'm looking at them from a historical standpoint, okay? Originally, this was going to be a full LobotomizeGang style video. Something you'd see on the channel with sketches and cutaways and all that stuff. But that plan dove out the window head first the second I tried to pick up a piece of bread and saw your character taking his sweet time getting into the correct position for the animation to be triggered, bending down to meticulously caress the item, then proceeding to gently place it into his imaginary pocket firmly shoved up his ass. Yeah, this is going to be one of those games. You know, think Red Dead Redemption 2, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War, etc. Immersive open world games with high production value, good gameplay, a great story, but have as much respect for your time as Heinrich Himmler had for the Jews. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I'd agree to the terms of service to play a video game, not to sign myself up for slavery. What is this, an Amazon work contract? You know it is bad when the most popular mods are those that make the gameplay less tedious. But I thought to myself, maybe I'm just over-exaggerating and this is just a bad first impression. So I continued to push through, determined to fulfill my destiny of Kingdom Coming, still unsure of my hasty conviction, only for it to be definitively affirmed 3 hours later when the game asked me to smith a hunting sword in real time, going through the entire process step by step. I know that blacksmithing takes a lot longer in real life, okay? I'm just saying that the devs went out of their way to make sure that the experience is as authentic as possible. Maybe a little bit too authentic. And this is a double-edged sword. No pun intended. You have to buy the material, heat up the iron, and methodically bang it into the shape of a sword to a rhythm, mind you, lest your character run out of breath every 5 seconds like he has asthma. See, I thought I was playing as a medieval knight and not a Reddit mod. And all of this was after the mandatory alchemy tutorial that I believe literally taught me how to brew a potion in real life. And I gotta tell you, if brewing potions is as boring and tedious in real life as it is in Kingdom Come 2, the first recipe I'd learn would be cyanide. Now don't get me wrong, I think this game is phenomenal, and I do actually recommend it. Just not to everyone. What I do recommend to everyone, however, is hitting that like button, okay? Hit that like button. Please. Despite its indifference to the player, there's a lot of heart here, deeply buried under a massive web of interconnected gameplay systems that are more complex than the family tree of an average person in Alabama. But you know, heart. These systems, though tedious, are very engaging if you are willing to put aside half a day's work to actively engage with them. Yeah, this is a game for the real gamers. If you find yourself moving more than 10 feet per day and your back lacking a 90-degree curvature, then you're probably not gonna extract much enjoyment out of this game. Every single task, however minute, takes freaking forever to complete. From survival, traversal, alchemy, blacksmithing, inventory management to combat, and even resting, you don't just push a button and expect it to be done. You have to actively involve yourself in the process. So I hope that you like movies, because you're gonna get locked in an unskippable cutscene every time you try to do anything. Just look at this. You wanna pick herbs? Unskippable. Even fast travel is ironically slow. You can't skip it, and it can't be sped up either. But here's the catch. Occasionally, fast travel will be paused when you come across random events that you can either try to ignore or engage with. So you have no other choice but to sit there and stare at the icon while fighting the urge to put your head through the monitor. This is why I suggest getting a horse early. His name is Pebble. He's pretty cheap, and you can ride him around to receive a perk which upgrades him from a malnourished crack fiend pony into a Ferrari F40. Plus, riding the horse gives you a chance to admire the game's stunning beauty, which took me by surprise since I played on the lowest settings so that my laptop doesn't start a nuclear reaction. You can buy Pebble as part of a huge questline that spans the entirety of the prologue map. And I'm not kidding when I say huge, okay? Just think of this woman after getting penetrated by 1,000 men in 12 hours and you'll get the picture. Most of the quests you go on feel like actual adventures, even the seemingly trivial ones. The optional side quest to look for your dog feels like an entire game on its own. It feels like a DLC quest Ubisoft will make you pay $40 for. By the time you find the dog, you will have finished 4 other related quests, each of which could take up to half an hour to finish depending on your playstyle. Without going into too much spoilers, you will have acquired a decent amount of money, a lot of sweet combat gear, let a guy fart in your face, talk to a sheep, and unlocked 50% of the prologue map upon completion of this single quest. I kept trying to push through in hope of sleeping with hot women, but some of these quests just take forever to finish. This could either be a good thing or a bad thing, because realistically, you'd want the most out of your $60. But this could also mean that you'll die of old age before beating the game. Is it fun? Yes. Is it realistic? Yes. Is it immersive? Yes. Конечно. Without a hint of doubt. This is one of the most immersive games I've had the pleasure of playing. But at some point, you really gotta ask yourself if the immersion is really worth it when you're spending huge chunks of your limited time on leveling up digital swordsmanship, while you could be spending that time on, real life exercise. I get that this statement doesn't apply to everybody, especially when you have disabilities and playing video games is one of the only ways for you to experience something you otherwise couldn't. I'm just talking about the vast majority of people here. I'm not telling you how to spend your time, okay? You do with it as you see fit. Just that for me, in my subjective opinion, there are a lot more beneficial things that I could spend my time on than doing digital manual labor. One touch of immersion that I love as a person who takes regular showers is that personal hygiene is taken into account when talking to people. This means if you don't want NPCs to treat you like how people treat you in real life, you have to regularly wash the blood and dirt off of yourself. Not in a river or under the rain though. Only in designated troughs and bathhouses, and at no other location. You can't just jump into a river and expect to be clean. Water doesn't work that way. Dumbass. I also really like how the game hammers home the fact that Henry is a filthy medieval peasant by people constantly telling him how smelly and disgusting he is. It's hilarious. This is why I robbed them all in the middle of the night as soon as I had the chance. If you lead a busy life and have only 1 or 2 hours to play video game, you're not gonna extract a lot of enjoyment out of this game. 1 or 2 hours will just get you lost in the forest and molested by bandits. Which brings us to the combat. Note that I have only played about 5 or 6 hours of the first game a long time ago, so I can't make any meaningful comparisons between the two. The one thing I remember is the combat was jank. I do know that they removed one direction of attack. The first game had 5 directions, whereas only 4 are present in this one. This streamlines the combat a tiny bit, making it easier to get a hang of things. It doesn't make the game easier, nor does it affect the gameplay in any meaningful way though, because everything else remains pretty much the same. Blocking is the same, parrying is the same, the weird camera, the clunky movement, the enemy AI, even the extreme boredom I feel while fighting in the game. Say what you wanna say, but Warhorse Studio is nothing if not consistent. Combat is consistently boring between the two titles. Yeah, I can't say that I enjoy fighting too much, especially when both you and the enemy are wearing a full set of armor. It just devolves into a mating dance, where you lovingly stare into each other's eyes while making funny poses, just waiting to see who's gonna kill himself first to escape from the embarrassment. The combat does feel a lot better in this game though. It is more fluid and snappy, despite the occasional jankiness. For me, I find it a lot more satisfying to sneak up on people, knock them out, and mutilate their unconscious bodies, which is why I do it in the game as well. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I haven't had this much fun committing crimes in the game since I amputated all of my pawns and harvested their organs in RimWorld. And I truly believe this is the correct way to play Kingdom Come 2, because the game starts with one of my favorite leisure activities, women stalking. The very first thing you do in this game is take off your clothes and silently watch bathing women from the bushes. Henry's a fucking creep. Never before have I felt so represented in a video game. Speaking of representation, trauma time! I am aware that there's some trauma surrounding this game, though I admit that I was very unfamiliar with it because I wasn't really interested in this game at the time. Only when making this video did I learn about the trauma thanks to the members of my Patreon. Special shout out to Oseyeris, Spyro, Stefan S, Mouse Mangala, and of course, PR. If you enjoy what you see here and would like to support the channel, consider checking out the Patreon. Okay, back to the trauma. Thanks to my Discord and additional research, I have learned that this trauma is about penetration via a certain male genitalia and characters whose place of birth and tone of skin are inconsistent with the historical setting. In other words, gay sex and black guys in Europe. I assume that the gay romance is with this guy, Hans Capen. But who the hell wanna romance this guy? He's an unlikable, pompous, immature, whiny, entitled prick. I know that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, okay? I am self-aware enough to know that, right? So shut the fuck up! But unless this guy has the most amazing character arc ever written in the history of entertainment, whereas in addition to metamorphosing into another person entirely, he also stops being a noble.
Being a noble means people would find out that he's gay.
Because I am sure being gay was considered a sin back then and would get you executed. So until all of that happens, I don't see myself doing any penetrating, unless it's with a sword. Also, I find it extremely contradictory that the devs said they are committed to making this game as close to history as possible, but then they went and make Hans Capen, who is based on a real person, gay. Okay, look, I'm not saying that being gay wasn't a thing back then, okay? I'm sure it was, just not as prevalent as it is now. So it wouldn't be totally inaccurate to have a gay character in this game, as long as it is not very overt, right? Because, you know, homosexuality wasn't tolerated back then. It was a crime punishable by death, right? So people, they would most likely do it in secret. But depicting a real historical figure as gay or bisexual, when you said that you wanted to make this game as historically accurate as possible, feel like perverting history. This character here, Hans Capen, is based on a real historical figure. Okay, his name was Jan Ptacek. This guy was real, but there is no historical evidence, no documented evidence of him being gay or bisexual. You either commit to making everything 100% accurate, just like you said, or you create a new fictional character to have your gay sex with, you know? I'm serious! Why not just create another fictional character entirely for you to have a gay romance with and leave the real people alone, you freak! You could have had your cake and eat it too. Regarding black people, I've yet to encounter any of them during my 15 hours, okay? I've murdered and robbed hundreds of people, but none of them black. So I can't say that they have had any effect on my gameplay. But just so you know, the chances of finding a black person in medieval Europe in Bohemia in the 15th century is as close to zero as you can get. Undoubtedly there were black people, yeah. But the number of these people were so incredibly low that the chances of meeting them might as well have been zero. Even now in modern times, with international travel and all that stuff, black people are still considered a minority in Europe. So what are the chances of them roaming around freely in medieval Europe? Okay, I would like to direct your attention to the map here, alright? Bohemia is right here. Africa is all the way down here. That is very far. This is not Total War, okay? You cannot just put your characters into marching stance and get there in 3 turns, right? This is freaking far away. Not to mention that people in Africa didn't really have a reason to travel to Bohemia and vice versa, because they were engaged in constant wars. Contrary to what Ubisoft want you to believe, black people didn't run around changing the course of other countries' histories, okay? But that's just my opinion. Comment down below what you think about this situation. Because everything has to be black and white nowadays, do you think that Warhorse Studios are deceptive charlatans who take advantage of the LGBT community for the sake of profit? Or do you think this game is secretly a tool used to brainwash the populace through the perversion of history and religion? Did they make a real person gay, then market the game as historically accurate so that people would believe that homosexuality was as prevalent back then as it is now? Again, I am apolitical, so I don't believe that just because a game doesn't feature a trans character means it's a tool to oppress the left. Nor do I believe the presence of a single gay character means the game is brainwashing propaganda. What do you think? Just keep it civil in the comment section, right? Now, on to a more lighthearted note. Kingdom Come 2 is actually pretty funny. Not that funny. More like funny. Not that overly sarcastic humor with tons of inappropriate analogies you've been bombarded with for the last 10 minutes. The humor here feels kinda silly and carefree to the point of becoming asinine at times. But I think it's fitting the period. Since it's the 15th century, the internet wasn't a thing.
Content creation is harder than your 9 to 5.
The Huck tour girl would have been accused of witchcraft, scumbag criminals like Logan Paul would have been decapitated on the spot, and people back then didn't suffer from brain rot. By the way, do you know that the abbreviation of LobotomizeGang is LoGang?
Good morning, little guy. Good morning, little guy. Good morning, little guy. Good morning, little guy. Good morning, little guy.
And calling it LoboGang just makes it sound like we're a bunch of sweaty DC nerds who jerk themselves off to Batman's bulge when he's looking at Robin in those shorts. But I digress. There is a quest where you go from hunting down a band of humans who, contrary to their name, don't do a lot of cuming, especially after Henry tried to rizz up this woman.
It's been too long since he's been with a woman, and his arm's getting sore. You're not getting any younger, you know. Your breath smells like a horse's arsehole.
To getting wasted with a human's leader, then talking to a dog in the middle of the night in a gameplay section that would have been horror had it not been for your character drunkenly singing nonsense. Or there's one quest that starts with you looking for a cart, then devolves into beating the shit out of an old man in the rain. Not for any particular purpose, just for fun. Safe to say, this game is wild. Borderline on, dare I say, wacky. Should you play Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Well, you've watched the video, you've looked at the list, you decide for yourself. But I'll try to put it simply. Do you want to be a smelly peasant with negative rizz? Or Henry of Skalitz? Share this video, subscribe and stay tuned to watch me wallow in unceasing madness. Haha! If you don't, I'll give crack cocaine to my neighbor's dog.